Hey everyone, and welcome to Ivy League. My name is Jonathan, and it will be my pleasure to take you through all on an introduction to paper strategic business leader, popularly referred to as SBL. So, like I said, this is me. My name is Jonathan, and I lead the paper SBL at Ivy League. So by way of introduction, what do we know about the paper SBL? SBL is one of the numerous innovations, the latest in quite a lot of innovations that ACC has introduced to its qualification and its curriculum. So the whole concept really, birthing SBL is really a response to an extensive research and survey that was conducted by ACC with quite a lot of its approved employers, trying to understand, what are the critical skill sets, and competencies that they wanted the accountants, who were joining their firms, to hone and, have from day one. And it sort of mirrors typically what you would find, for this paper. So I'd largely break down the course really into three broad perspectives. So there is the technical content, which really is the technical knowledge that we're expected to have for this paper. There is also the professional skills, which is largely the response to the sort of skill sets, that traditional accountants might not have been very used to delivering, from day one. And then the large aspect of the course, or the third aspect of the course, is really around the exam techniques. So this introduction video is going to cover these three broad skill sets, so that we have a total understanding around, what the paper is, what the paper represents, and how to overcome and deal with any challenges that a candidate might have in preparing for success for this particular paper. So like I said before, the whole concept is it's really an exam that is designed to mirror the workplace, right? And the idea is that the students will be given a case study, and that case study reflects a real world challenge or a real life, scenario. And then students will be expected to complete several tasks. And, as they do that, they've got to demonstrate that they have the right technical knowledge, the right professional skills, and also embedded within the professional skills are strong ethical skills, to be able to provide solutions that can add value to the organization. One of the numerous things, right, that makes it so distinct is that, a broad spectrum of technical skill sets, will be tested over the course of this paper. And this technical skill set ranges from areas like governance to strategy to leadership to even things around innovation, change management, technology, finance, controls, and audits as a function, and also sit with a lot of things around data analytics and core technologies. And collectively, what it does is that, it presents a very unique way, an innovative way to, throwing up real situations, real business problems, right, to accountants and such that, with those sort of skill sets, it makes it easy for, today's accountant to be able to become fit and proper, right, to be able to deliver value and to any organization, regardless of the function that it might serve. Now, to bring you home in terms of how the exam will be structured, right, there's some critical things I would like to highlight, for a candidate to be sitting for this paper. The first thing I would like to highlight is that you must have a broad understanding, around the core curriculum and really the technical content. That's going to be a very strong focus for everyone. And you all should be very familiar with some of the examining teams, documents and reference documents. So the examining team has a couple of them. They are technical articles that have been designed for the SBL candidates, and they were written by the examining team. There's also base specimen questions, right? And that were developed to get students ready for this particular exam. And also something very interesting is the examiner's approach article, which is directly how the examiner thinks that every candidate should get prepared for this particular paper. And then also there's the marking guide article. So I do recommend the complement of all this, right, from day one, so that it makes it very easy, for a typical candidate to be ready to add value, and also do so well in the exam. So let me go back again to the syllabus content. So I'm going to break it into two parts. I'll speak largely on the technical knowledge, then I'll come back again and speak on the professional skills. So back to the technical knowledge, there are 8 of them. There are 8 technical contents, right? So in no particular order, I'm going to list them. So I'll start with leadership. The very essence, right, around the paper is to provide sound business leadership. And that's why the course starts off, by introducing, candidates to the concept of leadership. Some of the things you'll be covering will be the traits, the theories of leadership. You would also look at the qualities of leadership. And this is very important because most of the case study scenarios, right, might present leadership situations or clear lessons around where the presence of a good, strong leadership, ethical leadership might have propelled an organization towards success, or really looking at organizations that have not been able to create value properly or have not been even been able to harness their potentials, and which is really down to the quality of leadership. So you start out, you look at leadership. Something interesting about the curriculum on leadership is that it ties itself neatly to conversations around culture and also change, because we recognize that through transformational leadership, which is the sort of leadership, that everyone, preparing for this course should aspire to provide in any organization, has elements of transformational change that can be embedded in that transformational leadership. And with that also comes, an understanding, for the curriculum wants everyone to understand how critical it is for transformational leaders, strategic business leaders, to be able to manage the change that comes with that sort of leadership style. And more importantly as well, too, is also to deal with the impact it will have on culture. Because there's a direct relationship between the leadership in any organization and the culture that permeates through across the entire organization. And then the final part of the syllabus on leadership will speak to things around the professional ethics, we'll speak to things around professionalism and the general codes and conduct of accounting as a profession. And at the end of the day, it really makes it very easy that strategic business leaders are also ethical leaders, right? And leaders with strong ethical orientation. And that's really the big picture. The next technical content in the syllabus speaks to governance. And to be clear, governance here will be looked at, from the various types of business organizations that exist. So we'll look at governance in the private sector. And specifically, we'll look at governance in commercial and profit-oriented firms. But there's also a strong focus in the syllabus around governance in public sector and not-for-profit organizations. And quite a lot of these have been tested, right, in the recent history. There are quite a lot of questions. Look no further, you can check questions like the December 2020 that was really around a not-for-profit organization, the Bloomberg Conservative Organization. Other aspects of governance will be around the roles of the director. So we'll look at concepts like the agency theory and the stakeholder relationship management concept. And more importantly, will be the duties of the directors, because the directors are critical people in understanding the corporate governance and the actors. If you wanted to understand the actors in the corporate governance space in every organization, the directors are very critical people. And why this is so is because the directors are actually agents of the owners of every business. So we'll look at things like the types of directors, that does exist in different business organizations. And more importantly as well, to speak about concepts like the diversity of the board, how diverse should a board be, so we're going to have those kind of conversations when we look at governance. Strategy is at the heart of the paper. You're not going to have a conversation on strategic business leadership without sort of appreciating, the role that strategy brings to the table. We'll cover concepts like strategy planning, strategy development, and strategy choices that are available for firms, and also strategy implementations. We're going to cover all that. Strategy is at the heart of the paper. So statistically, 25% of the course is centered around strategy. Such a very important aspect of the strategic business leader, this particular section of strategy. Neatly from that is also the section that is focused on organizational control and audit. And the thing with organizational control and audit is really trying to understand the control environment, right? The internal controls and the control environment in every organization. And more importantly, how those controls can be maintained, and that's where internal audit comes in, right? So we'll look at organizational audit, and the focus in organizational audit really is around, the internal audit function, within the audit space. After that, we'll look at risk. And the interesting thing around risk is we'll cover risk from a variety of perspectives. We'll look at risk identification, we'll look at risk measurements, We'll look at risk analysis. Would obviously, look at things around risk capacity, and then more importantly is the role that risk does play in achieving the organizational strategy. So we're going to cover things like the enterprise risk management framework. A very interesting aspect of the syllabus now is to understand the lines of defense in an organization. So there are broadly 4 lines of defense in an organization. We'll cover that under risk. And more importantly is accounting for this risk and how risk can be accounted and measured. We're going to look at all those techniques, right? Another critical aspect of the syllabus is on finance. And to be clear, not just finance in its isolation, but finance as it relates to decision making, right? So one of the things that we would learn in that part of the syllabus is understanding that decision making in itself can be an offshoot of what a financial analysis. But the reality is that organizations don't make final decisions, right? And most corporate organizations who make final decisions solely on the basis of the financial analysis. And there's quite a lot of consideration for non-financial factors. And we're going to have other conversations, things around budgeting. We'll look at that, forecasting. We're going to cover all those concepts. Coin offerings, alternative and innovative methods of raising finance. We're going to cover all that in the finance space. We're going to look at innovation, performance excellence, and change management as something also very crucial, as part of the broader paper SBL. So we would understand how firms must be very innovative, how strategic business leaders must constantly innovate, look out for opportunities that does exist. We'll look at change management because obviously something that drives innovation is also organizations that can quickly adapt to change. So we'll look at the whole change management philosophy and how change is embedded within organizations. And then more importantly, how does all this collaboratively tie into strategic business leader course. We would also look at technology and data analytics. And it's quite interesting because there's a lot of value that can be unearthed, in the static data and the various data sets that are being created in every organization and their interaction. So we'll look at the power of that data, how to revolutionize the data, how to visualize the data a lot more, how to unearth, hidden intelligence that does exist in that data. And then we'll stretch that conversation across the various gamut of technology. We'll look at things like cloud computing, mobile computing, e-commerce, e-business, and then obviously we'll look at cybersecurity as well too. So that's it for the technical bits of the course. So the exams are structured along 2 broad lines. So there's the technical skill and there's also the professional skills. And the professional skills are 5, right? I have an acronym for it. I call it CCASE, simply put case. In no particular order, I'll speak to what they are. Communication is the first professional skill, and it largely speaks to the ability to send information to another party and receive information. If you think about the way communication lines are generated, and communication flows within most organizations, it can flow in an upward direction, it can flow in a lateral, horizontal direction, it can also flow in a downward direction. And that's important for us in this paper because the tone in which you speak is very important, right? Your tone must reflect your communication pattern. So when you are communicating upward, simply means you are writing to a senior audience like the board, executive management, the MD, or the director of the company. You've got to be very careful that you are keeping it simple and going straight to the point. And one of the ways to appreciate this is that in real life, right, and in the practical world, it's always difficult to find very senior people giving you a lot of time. So every opportunity you have to discuss with senior audience, you must be able to capture your information in a very concise manner, cogent manner, and be direct about it, so that the message is not lost, in trying to elaborate the points you're trying to make. And so very central to communication is, the tone, the format you use for communicating. Another professional skill is commercial acumen. I think this is very, very relevant to us as a company. And that's really looking at the business viability, in anything we say or propose. And the simple way to look at business viability, I use a concept called cost-benefit analysis. Interestingly, you would do benefit analysis under finance. But just to say to us that, for every action we take, right, there are benefits that can accrue. It might be small, it might be significant, it might be over significant. But it's important that we understand that, for each of these costs, and the benefits, we've got to match it to be able to tell, are we better off or not? You're better off where the benefits outweigh the cost. And that ties neatly to what you'll be doing under commercial acumen. So essentially, you'll be asking yourself, do the benefits outweigh the cost? And that's the way to look at how it can be tested in your exam, right? Another great professional skill is analysis. And the thing with analysis is really around investigation. And one way I would advise that you look at analysis is your ability to run through quite a lot of information, and think about your exam as quite a lot of information. The ability to run through the various SBs and identify the critical points, and come up with it. That's a very good display of analysis. Skepticism is the fourth professional skill. And the thing with skepticism is that it's expected actually from every accountant, right? You must be skeptical. You don't accept things at face value. You might want to probe to further find out whether you can actually understand, if there are some unexplained situations at work. And then the final one is evaluation. And the thing with evaluation really is that you are trying to hold the balanced view. So when people evaluate, you've got to look at the positives, you've got to look at the negatives. So simply put, what is good and what can be better, that's what you look at. So that's that for the technical skills, right? And I've covered the technical skills and professional skills. Then the next will just be to generally cover the exam techniques, and that's really what I'll be doing. So in covering the exam techniques, I'll speak to some very critical exam information. So the first one is I wanted you to know the exam structure, and the exam structure is, it's an online exam now. And because it's an online exam, it makes it easy to retain quite a lot of focus as you go through. And some of the things you find within the SBL exam will be different types of SBs, whether it's an extract from an interview with a staff, or is it looking at surveys, or is it board of organizations reports? Different things can be contained within the exam booklet or the exam question set. So there are quite a lot of skill sets. I've listed some of them, but just to emphasize, you've got to know things around how to analyze the environment, understand the organization, the culture, the governance system, the capabilities, and then match that, right? And then where there are gaps, you try and see how you can sort of correct them. Speaking in terms of exam technique, one of the things I try to advise students is don't repeat the material, don't quote things verbatim, always add some value, right? That's something I would say. Another thing I find that is that a reason why people don't do well is when they don't read the question asked and they begin to answer their own question. No matter how much you write, the examiner will only grade you for how well you do in answering that question. And just to be clear, right, for every mark you make, or for every point you make, right, there are actually 2 marks up for grab. So that's really on the part of the exam structure. And how do you get these 2 marks, right? You've got to be sure you're addressing the specific. What's the decision? What's the situation? Hope you're addressing it. What's the specific requirement? Hope you're addressing it. So these are the very important things that you expected to demonstrate, for your exam. In wrapping up, I'll talk about the professional marks. How do you obtain it? Be logical in the points you make. Always start with the very most important points. Use the right format. The right format helps you. You are guaranteed selling marks by using the right reporting format across the various questions. Some might require you to use an Excel sheet. Some might require you to make a PowerPoint presentation or use the relevant one. Something very fundamental to the professional skills is the ethics and professional skills module. I actually think is something that every candidate must embrace. If you complete the ethics and professional skills module, it will help you not just alone in terms of the knowledge you get, but some of this content within the ethics and professional skills are quite an integral aspect of the exam. And I'm going to show you some of that soon, right? So you need to be able to speak to things around, so ethics and professionalism will be covered in Unit 1. Personal effectiveness will be covered in Unit 2. Innovation and skepticism is going to be covered in Unit 3. And then it goes down the way: commercial acumen, leadership, skepticism, communication, data analytics, and etc. Some additions have been made to the SBL exam, and I think it's worth knowing them. Strategic partnering is embedded within strategy. Blockchain and cryptocurrencies are quite embedded within the innovation part of the syllabus. Concepts like initial coin offerings within finance, disruptive technologies, innovation, Internet of Things, machine learning, and robotics are now an essential part of the syllabus. So in parting, I would say, it does help to join study forums, attend lectures with, approved learning partners like us. We've done this for quite a while, and we're so happy to share that knowledge that would help you as a student in how to pass and do well. Right? There are quite a lot of videos and reference materials that I think you can take advantage of. Read the technical articles, practice lots of questions, and you'll be fine. And then lastly, just to say to you, there are quite a lot of business sites that are very complementary as you study for SBL. So that'll be it for me. Many thanks, and I wish you all the best in our classes in SBL. Bye for now.